Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, thank you for stopping by. Today is Saturday, April 16th, 2022, which means it's Easter weekend, so happy Easter to everyone who is celebrating this weekend. Today is a very exciting day for me and John because it marks the exact halfway point of our marathon training. John and I registered for the Grandma's Marathon this summer. We have been training since about mid-February. Today is the halfway point. In a way that's exciting, but also it's like, okay, it's been a lot of work and we have the other half to complete before we actually get to run the race. John and I have been following the Higdon Intermediate 1 training program, which I'll link in the description box below. I will be highlighting mostly things that have been keeping me well-nourished, well-fed, well-supported, as comfortable as possible while I have been putting my body through miles and miles of marathon training. The first thing, and arguably the most important thing that John and I have both been using to keep ourselves on track is simply logging every day what we're doing, if we completed our run or whatever the required exercise was for that day. In the beginning of February 2022, I simply printed off a monthly calendar for February, March, April, May, and June because those were the months that we were going to be training for Grandma's Marathon. In order to fill out the calendars with all of the miles and required training, I started on the race day, which is Saturday, June 18th, and I worked backwards. So week 18, week 17, week 16, all the way back, and I figured out when week 1 would begin. We have these calendars taped to the wall in our living room, so they are very visible. We see them every day, and so it's a visual reminder of how much progress we've made. We sign our initials on every single day that we complete training, so that system has worked really well for us so far. I love looking up at the marathon training calendar and seeing that portion of completed days grow day by day by day as the weeks go by. Item number 2 on my list of essentials this training season has been the Fitbit Charge 5. This thing has been absolutely key because, and I cannot even believe that I did this, but when I ran my first marathon back in 2019, same marathon, it was the Grandma's Marathon up in Duluth, Minnesota, I trained without a GPS tracker. So I was basically estimating my mileage. I live in a part of Minneapolis where there's lots of lakes. Unfortunately, the Parks and Rec Board publishes what the mileage is for the paths around these lakes, but what I didn't account for was these little connecting paths and transition points where you get off one path and then you go to another path. What I realized this time around wearing this Fitbit Charge 5 is that I was running way more miles than I should have been running last time. And I firmly believe this is what wound me up in a boot in 2019. I'll put a picture up of it right here. Yes, this was actually very close to when I was gonna be running the 2019 marathon, maybe a month and a half out. And at that point, my foot was really hurting. I thought at the time that I had almost broken my foot. Luckily I hadn't, but it did warrant a visit to the doctor. I had to get an x-ray. It was not cheap, and it was also stressful because I thought, well, you know, I've been training for all these weeks and now I may not even get to actually run the race. So this is my ringing endorsement to please track your miles, and when this thing hits the exact mileage that I am aiming for, so say that I'm out trying to do a 5-mile run, when this thing ticks up from 4.99 to 5.00, I stop. I keep like walking. Obviously don't want the lactic acid to build up, but just walk. Like, don't run any more than is absolutely necessary. Item number 3 on my list of must-haves for marathon training are none other than Brooks Adrenaline running shoes. You may have seen the video that I posted a few months ago when I purchased my current pair of Brooks Adrenaline shoes. Some of you may have seen these before, but I had to highlight them again because these are absolutely essential. I love them so much. They say Adrenaline right here on the outside. I can't say enough good things about Brooks running shoes. They have saved my feet and saved my legs. Obviously, you know, I'm not a scientist. I've never run studies on these shoes, but from personal experience and running hundreds of miles in Brooks running shoes, I can say that I am a very happy customer and I will not be switching running shoes anytime soon. Item number 4 on my essentials list is a running belt. These come in all shapes and sizes. I've seen some people with belts that strap around their back or their shoulders. This one just goes around your waist. I bought this back in 2019. I've really liked this. One thing I'll say though is when you're running for a really long distance, sometimes like this thing will bounce a little bit because it's filled with water or, you know, like an electrolyte liquid inside of each of these bottles. These hold about 10 ounces of water each, which is very crucial for when you're going on really long runs, like 15 miles, 16 miles, or even 20 miles. We have 2 Saturday runs that are gonna be 20-mile runs. So you bet I'm gonna be wearing this, and these are gonna be filled with electrolyte water as well as some other stuff. Next up on my list of essentials is Lärabars. I absolutely love Lärabars as training fuel. The reason why I think they're so great to have on long runs and also just to eat in general when you're training is because they have a really nice blend of sugar, fat, and protein because they are fruit and nut bars. The fruit base is dates, and dates naturally have a lot of sugar. Yes, it's high in sugar, but what I really like is that it's natural sugar. One thing that I did in the 2019 marathon training season was I trained with a lot of gels that had just lots of like processed sugar. So I thought this time around I could maybe be a little bit healthier with the food or the sugar source that I was choosing to eat in order to sustain myself over really long training runs. And so I thought of Lärabars because they are packed with sugar, but it's all plant-based and it's not processed sugar, which I really like. These are my 3 absolute favorite types of Lärabars. They are called lemon bar, peanut butter cookie, and apple pie. Every 3 miles, I like to eat about a third of a bar so that it's not too much that I'm feeling gross and I can feel like food bouncing around in my stomach, but also enough that it's replenishing the calories that I've lost so far. Overall, highly, highly recommend these bars, especially when you're in need of calorie replenishment over many, many miles and many months of marathon training. The 6th and final item on my list of things that are absolutely necessary for healthy, comfortable, and sustainable marathon training is BodyGlide Anti-Chafe Balm. This was recommended to me by my OBGYN back in 2019. She is a badass. She is a wonderful doctor. I love her so much and I've been seeing her for years, so that is a personal plug for my personal care doctor. She is a marathon runner. She ran a marathon, I want to say back in 2018 or maybe even earlier than that. And I went to her in 2019 when I was starting with my marathon training and told her that I was having some really painful chafing and also that my sports bra was cutting into my shoulder and, you know, kind of on the sides of my abdomen. So I asked her for help. I asked if there were any products that she could recommend, and she recommended BodyGlide to me. So I very quickly ordered it. This is something that I continue to use to this day. It is a lifesaver and I don't have any chafing or rug burn effects on my body anymore, thanks to BodyGlide. All right, that is everything that I have to show you in terms of gear and goodies that I have been using and relying on to keep me on track and just feeling good throughout this marathon training so far. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I cannot stress enough how important these components have been in making my marathon training so far both enjoyable and sustainable, because if it's not sustainable and it's not enjoyable, it's just really not a fun experience. I'll see you in the next episode, and keep an eye out for training updates in the second half of our marathon training program. Take care.